Council, please come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mandy, could you please call the roll?
Young.
Here.
Randall.
Here.
Butler.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Hopkins.
Here.
And Riley.
Here. Could I get a motion for approval of our tentative agenda?
So moved.
Support. Miranda Horstman Stryland, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Randall.
Yes.
And Riley.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes. Motion passed. At this time, we have opportunity for a public forum. Anyone wishing to address council regarding items that are on tonight's agenda, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you would like to comment, please come to this microphone. Tell us who you are, where you live, and make your comments, please.
My name is Shelby Dames, and I'm here as a concerned parent of a soccer player. And we actually have several parents that are here wanting to express concerns about making soccer a priority in this community. We're really blessed to have some great organizations here in Pella that do provide community activities such as soccer outside of the classroom. And we do have concerns that a lot of the facilities need upgrading, and we don't have the ability to schedule soccer games on a safe field with, support of the community at the current time. So our understanding is that this is something that's been tabled from one time to the next without ability to kind of resolve where to go with making a decision on whether or not to update the current fields or add more fields at a different location. And so we just want to make sure that you understand that there's a lot of us that feel passionate that we want to support our children. And so that's why we have a lot of soccer players here today. Anything else to add?
Can only do one at a time, please.
Ryle Smith, 2312 Trentfalon. We all have kids out here that are very passionate with soccer. She said that perfectly. All we're asking is to be treated fairly. We want kids. Pella is a very open community, child-friendly community. But for the last few years, we really don't have the facilities for our kids. If you want to pay attention right now, we actually have no soccer fields currently that are playable. We have no nets set up, except for the high school. Pella High School does have a net set up. But we have roughly 600 to 800 kids, give or take. We have one field to play. Can we have more practice fields? We have the one that we currently have lost currently, that is our old practice field, old playing fields. We were asking if we can get that back for practices. We're not asking for a lot right now. We need something now, not something that we can argue about for 10 years or whatever and try to get funding. We need it today. Our kids deserve it. I mean, we have dog parks that we've given money to. Let's give some to our kids. Let's give them somewhere to play. So we're not asking a lot today. We're just asking for some help to get them to play. The other thing is we're trying to get it scheduled. We don't have enough time to schedule all the games that we have. So having this extra field, as well as the current one at the new park, if we can have both of those, I know the quality's not there, but for a practice field, for little kickers, that's what we need right now. And then we can further discussion about what we need in the future and how to grow and how to make this more of a complex. But today, can we resolve it and actually get some fields for our kids? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hugh Howe, 1136 198th Place. Just would echo the comments the other parents made. I don't know that I have much to add other than Pella's a great community to live in. It's the gold standard in a lot of areas. I think this is one area that does need attention and improvement. Our kids, they play other communities. We're at other soccer fields quite a bit. and you look at the facilities they have available to them, we're not as lucky in many cases. A lot of teams that we play, they're able to play through the winter. They have indoor facilities. We're just wanting good outdoor facilities for our children to be able to pursue soccer.
Continuing with the soccer trend, my name is Angela Pascal. I live here in Pella, 153 Collins Drive. And Ben Wade is my son and a soccer player here in Pella, and had a few things he wanted to share.
I grew up playing here, and it's a safe place. And I want it to keep growing as it goes through, and just having the chance to play on a nice soccer field where it's not like all crammed in, and there's only like 1-2 fields for people to play on. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm going to change the subject. I'm Alicia Hellman from Oski. Tonight you plan to discuss possible solutions in regards to the SCRA and the airport. I just want to bring some things to your attention. One being the City of Oskaloosa hasn't fully paid their portion of a 911 bill that was due June 30th. Do you really want to work with them when they have bills to pay but are dragging their feet on paying it? If they can't pay for something as essential as that, what makes you think you can trust them to pay their 40% of an operation expense of an airport? Secondly, what makes you think Oskaloosa won't use you after they get the ground around the airport annexed into city limits? They will definitely raise the cost of everything to Oskaloosa and probably some of your costs to the airport. This nonsense could end tonight with you voting to leave the 2080 agreement once and for all, getting away from the project that we the people have repeatedly said no on, and focus your money on work within your city limits, like soccer, I guess. Because we all know that those 4 landowners will not sell, and unfortunately the only way you will get that grant for them is eminent domain. And quite frankly, you lost those powers when Mahaska County did the right thing and got out of the 2080 agreement. They should have never entered into the first place. So you have a job to do, and you need to think long and hard about continuing this unnecessary project, because we the people that do not want it are not going to stand down and let this be. We will continue to be vocal about this and continue to fight for those landowners as long as this is an issue. I'm positive you are quite sick of all of us, so I think you know what the right thing to do is here. Thank you.
Good evening. As you know, I'm going to change it back to soccer. So, Sarah Track, 2233 Dakota Drive, Pella, and I'm obviously very passionate about soccer. I played at the junior high fields, the Truman fields, and the soccer complex while growing up. So I understand the history behind the flyer and the newspaper clippings that were sent out in your packet. Fun fact, I grew up and played with 2 of those ladies' daughters all through my years. So it was fun to see that their moms had the energy and forward thinking to make the soccer complex come to life. So we've enjoyed being at the soccer complex for about 20 years. The last 5 years have been rough. In 2019, the Community Services Board's notes state that there needs to be new irrigation, electric heads and valves. The current pump does not function well and needs frequent repairs, and it continues to have issues. There was $300,000 in repairs scheduled for FY 24-25, which would be this year. And so it was marked as a low priority at the time, but I give you this reference because a $300,000 investment in 2019 could have saved us hundreds of thousands currently and had the potential to expand the life of the complex. Also, I realize some of you were not on council at that time, but some of you were, which, if I'm honest, is part of the frustration. We've been asking for repairs and maintenance to the different aspects of the complex for 5 years. Also, your packet does include a map of the proposed layout of the sports park if we move the fields, and that is dated November 2019. So, which makes me think that the plan was always to move the fields to the sports park, but not acted upon. So we can't do anything about past council or community services notes, but what we can do is collaborate with each other to make the best scenario possible. The club is wanting and willing to sit down with members of council and community services to get the best layout and design for the upcoming fall at the sports park, because we'll have major scheduling conflicts due to the number of participants in both the city rep program, which I believe is at 525 at this point, and the club program, which has 21 teams and about 310 players. Not to mention we'll be losing daylight as we play into the fall. So we're also wanting to sit down and go through the two options that are laid out for you in your packet. One being, the soccer complex remodel overhaul, and then the option of moving the complex entirely to the sports park. I think some of you are confused about what the club wants or needs because we haven't had that sit down, hash it out, pros, cons conversation. The benefits to staying in the soccer complex are we have lights, a storage facility, and adequate room for our current programming, whereas the new map at the sports complex has fewer fields, no storage, and no lights. The benefits to moving to the sports park are proper field construction, central location for future athletic fields, and city maintenance. With that, we'd like to discuss plans and the designs of these fields, as we're the primary users of it. With the growing number of players, we'll need additional lights on playing fields and larger fields to accommodate the number of our older teams. So what I'm asking for is more of a partnership. If we're to go and fundraise for the project to help with this partnership, we just want to know that when we do that we would have the opportunity for input for those fundraising dollars. So thank you for your time and energy into this project.
My name is Heather Amos, 1534 Broadway. Soccer has been a huge part of our family for the last 10 years. My daughter started playing when she was 6 on the old junior high north and south that used to be softball fields. Then we moved to the soccer complex. It was beautiful to have those fields out there. If you fast forward to now, we're not even allowed to practice out there as high school kids because the field is so bad you can't even play. So we're a town that prides ourselves on having the best. What happened to having the best soccer fields? Is soccer just not important to Pella? I do have to ask. In my opinion, if this was football or basketball courts, football fields, they would have been fixed. I'm pretty sure those would have, I said that. This fall, Iowa Rush girls must practice at the football field in Pella, which has lights. They do have late practices because a lot of them are also cross-country, volleyball that are dealing with high school sports also. What would happen if we didn't have a high school that would allow us to play on those fields that do have lights? Would we even have a team? I don't know. The Rush program has been told they need to share the fields out at the sports complex, which means they can only have them Monday, Wednesday, Friday nights because the city program is using them the other nights. And also the games have to be after 12:30 on Saturdays. If I'm not mistaken, the Iowa Rush program does pay for facilities to use out of the sports complex. Not sure where that money has gone. I know it's not cheap to be part of Iowa Rush. It is because we can develop. We don't want to fix a sports complex because we can develop it and make more money for the city. What about the kids who dream of playing soccer in high school or even in college? The Pella Lady Ducks program has made it to state the last 2 years in a row, and I would say 16 out of those 20 varsity players have all played on Iowa Rush rec teams, and most of them on the select teams probably for 10 years or more. This program is thriving. I know on the team my daughter is on, we have people that come from Oski, Newton, and Knoxville to play. So let's keep the kids here in Pella and not allow them to travel to Des Moines, because there are people that I know that do travel to Des Moines because we don't have the complex that the Des Moines players have. And I think here in Pella, you want to bring Quick Trip or you want to bring Starbucks because it's going to keep people here. What about if we bring things for kids? People will move to a town that has those things for those kids. Lastly, I would like to say, if this land was donated to be soccer fields, let's keep them as soccer fields. We can play Dutch bingo. We all know who donated it. They are home realty. They sell land. They're contractors. If they wanted that to happen to that land, they could have developed it and built houses on there for themselves. I just ask, let's keep the community going and growing and support a sport that is thriving. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Eric Van Clay, 1361 Northwest Drive, and it sounds like there's an outcry for money for more things. We want to show you how to save money. We presented about 2 months ago a very creative, outside the box, what I would say collaborative plan to address pickleball in this community. In the past month, I've had work trips to New York and California, and you can't turn the radio on with hearing about pickleball taking over the nation. That's happening in Pella also. The beauty about pickleball is you can be 5 years old, you can be 85 years old. You can be fiercely competitive or not competitive at all and have a wonderful time. And our outside-the-box solution that we presented a couple months ago that I just want to remind people of on the discussion is Central College is looking at addressing our tennis courts and putting pickleball lines and redoing the whole surface on that. What would cost the city probably $750,000 to $1 million to rebuild 6 courts. We have the opportunity to add 12 courts and are simply asking for a partnership with the City Pickleball Association and Central College. So for approximately a third of the price of 6 courts, we're asking the city for $300,000 to help with 12 courts that would be addressing the need immediately. We tentatively have the contractor scheduled to address the courts and rebuild them for mid to late August. They would be done this fall. We've had a soft opening, if you want to call that, with the Pickleball Association this summer of using the courts at Central, using our restrooms, all of that has gone unbelievably well. This isn't a need that is current today. This was a need that was probably needed 2 years ago with the needs in this community of pickleball. So when there are so many needs in this community and those needs will not stop growing, we look at this as a cost-effective, timely way of addressing those needs now for a fraction of the cost. The other thing that we want to emphasize, and last night would be a perfect example of this, with storms and things like that coming into town, Central would also assume all weekly, monthly, and yearly upkeep of those courts. So it's not a matter of storm hits and there's branches, sticks, upkeep, maintenance that needs to be done, and there's one more thing for the city. It'd be the exact opposite. Central would incur all costs and manpower and labor to maintain those courts over the future. So this isn't an end-all for pickleball. I think there will be more needs in the future as pickleball continues to grow, and we're excited about those. Like I said, I think it's simply a cost-effective, timely way of addressing those needs now. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paula Allen. I live at 408 Broadway Street. I am part of the Pickleball Club. And first, we want to thank you for considering our proposal. I just kind of want to tell you some things that have been going on. We are already using Central College's facility. We actually painted lines on their courts. And tonight there's dinks and happening actually on Central College's campus. Last week we have 7 courts used, and everybody had a great time. We also do our ladder league out at Central right now on Wednesday nights. We had a pickleball tournament that had 90 people on a Saturday, and all courts were used from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. And we want to thank Central for letting us use their facility, and so we're kind of already doing it, I guess I want to say, and it's working really, really well. And I just want to thank you guys so much for considering this. We did go from 12 outdoor courts to 6, and without Central, we would be really probably in a pickle, I guess, a little bit. And our community keeps growing, and we just really, really appreciate everything that you guys have done and are considering. I kind of have a little proposal here to kind of show what the Pella Pickleball Club is would facilitate, as well as working with Central College. So again, thank you guys. It's very rough. So this is not the final, but it kind of gives you an idea of our history, what we want. It's stuck. Sorry about that. Again, this is really rough. And there's probably some. I have one. Thank you guys.
All right, we'll move on. Can I get a motion for approval of our consent agenda?
So moved.
Randerhorst DeYoung, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Randall
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Broadway, Carlstone,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
and Stryland.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, we'll move into a public hearing on the proposed EPCON residential urban renewal plan. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item to those in attendance and those watching at home on Pella Fiber. I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the big board for a brief presentation on this item. As Mayor DeWard stated, tonight's hearing is on a proposed urban renewal plan. To get everyone up to speed, council's aware of this, but when we talk about urban renewals, this is usually the first step in the economic development process. What the state of Iowa mandates, if you're going to award economic development incentives for projects have to be within an urban renewal area. Now, that's what we're considering this evening. This evening's proposed urban renewal district is the EPCON urban renewal plan. Now, overall, the diagram that you see on the board includes 83 housing units that would be constructed in 2 phases. To just orientate everyone, Washington Street is located down here. Fifield Road extension is right up here. And if you were to look over here, what you see is Chick-fil-A right off the screen over here. And the Prairie Ridge development that's currently taking place is located right up here. Now, as far as the plan itself, once again, please keep in mind this is the first step in the development process, is approval of the plan. There's some legislative requirements that we need to make sure as we consider the proposed urban renewal plan. And specifically, one of the requirements is that it needs to conform with the city's comprehensive plan as well. And that'll be an item that we'll be discussing during the presentation this evening. So, Mandy, let's please go ahead. Now, as we go through the process this evening, we're going to be considering 3 items. The resolution that we're considering this evening would be for the formation of the urban renewal plan. Now, according to Iowa law, urban renewal plans for housing developments are allowed for 10 years. However, with approval of the city, the county, and the school district, it can be extended up to 15 years. And we have a resolution that would actually extend to be a 5-year extension for this proposed urban renewal plan, so it's an agreement with both the county and the school district to extend out for the additional 5 years. The reason why this is necessary when we talk about urban renewal plans and economic development incentives, for housing districts or housing subdivisions, the only way you could use, the only thing that's allowed under Iowa code is to reimburse developers for the cost of public infrastructure. So for this particular development, the first phase of this development is going to be for 35 units on it. The estimated public infrastructure cost is for approximately $2 million. And Mandy, if we can go back to the previous slide. How the mechanics work is when we talk about reimbursing the developer would come in, install all the infrastructure. They would dedicate that infrastructure to the City of Pella. It would have to be built to our standards. Once the city has it and it's been dedicated to the City of Pella, what we would do is we would form an ordinance in this area that would capture what's called tax increment financing revenues. And what that is property taxes from new houses that are going to be built into development. The property taxes that would be rebated back to the developer to reimburse them for the cost of the public infrastructure would be from the valuations of the new homes. Now keep in mind, when we talk about new residential subdivisions, the most expensive and probably the biggest impediment to new housing subdivisions is the cost of public infrastructure. So for this first phase that we have right here for 35 homes is approximately $2 million. Phase 2 would be $3 million that we have here. From a developer standpoint, the way that TIF works is they would receive about half of the property taxes from the new homes that are going to be built in the EPCON subdivision. The reason it's only half is we're required under Iowa law to dedicate a significant amount of the funding for low and moderate income housing from the new property taxes that are generated under there. And also the existing taxing jurisdictions, which would be the city, the school, and the county, would be able to keep their debt service levy as well. So from the developer standpoint, they receive about half of their property taxes that would be rebated back on this. And to do the math on build out of the subdivision, the developer is requesting to have a 15-year urban renewal plan so they can ensure that would be repaid the cost of the public infrastructure on it as well. So Mandy, let's go ahead, please. So what we have up here is Resolution 6724, which would adopt the urban renewal plan, and that is a schematic design of the homes that we're discussing for the EPCON urban renewal plan. The ordinance would actually form that tax increment financing district, and that would be the mechanism that would allow us to capture the incremental values or the property values, property tax revenues from the new homes. And then we also have finally on the agenda this evening is a resolution approving the 5-year PIF extension agreement with both Marion County and the Pella Community School District. So, Mr. Mayor, I believe that concludes staff's presentations on the various items associated with the Epcon Urban Renewal Plan. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions the mayor and council may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mike. Mandy, any written comments received?
No written comments.
Council, any comments, questions? Any member of the audience have a comment or question about this particular item? All right, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Got Hopkins and Carlstone. All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Van Stuylen,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Reindeerhorst,
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. We'll move on to resolution number 6724 entitled, bear with me, resolution determining an area of the city to be an economic development area and that the rehabilitation, conservation, redevelopment, development, or a combination thereof of such area is necessary in the interest of public health, safety, or welfare of the residents of the city. Designated such area as appropriate for urban renewal projects and adopting the Epcon Residential Urban Renewal Plan. I get a motion for approval.
So moved.
Mr. Island Carlstone, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Stuylen,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Reindeerhorst,
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. So now we move on to the ordinance. Ordinance number 1043, entitled an ordinance providing that general property taxes levied and collected each year on certain property located within the Epcon Residential Urban Renewal Area in the City of Pella, County of Marion, State of Iowa, by and for the benefit of the State of Iowa, City of Pella, County of Marion, Pella Community School District, and other taxing districts, be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans, monies advanced to an indebtedness, including bonds issued or to be issued incurred by the city in connection with the Epcon Residential Urban Renewal Area, Phase 1. This is the first reading. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Hopkins, Carlstone. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Van Stuylen,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Reindeerhorst,
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Move to satisfy the rules and place on third and final reading.
Support.
Young Branderhorst, thank you. I don't have to read that again. Is there any discussion? We have a motion to waive the second and third readings. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Reindeerhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Van Stuylen.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Move to adopt. Support.
DeYoung, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Van Stuylen,
Yes.
Reindeerhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, resolution number 6725, entitled Resolution Approving and Authorizing Execution of an Extension Agreement by and among the City of Pella, the County of Marion, and the Pella Community School District, approving the extension of the Division of Tax Revenue in the Epcon Residential Urban Renewal Area in the City of Pella, Iowa. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Mr. Island, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay,
Is this negotiated or is there a criteria required to extend?
Excuse me?
Is this a negotiated term extension or is there a criteria needing to be met to extend it?
No, as far as to extend the partial extension agreement. The only requirement under state code is the county, and that would be the Marion County supervisors and the Pella Community School District will also have to approve the 5-year extension. And I can tell you, Dr. Carlstone, that we made presentations to both the Marion County supervisors and the Pella Community School Board on it as well, and met with them. They've had work sessions on this development as well. And so the idea is for the 5-year extension, since they would be impacted, they would have to agree to it, and that's the only requirement that we have.
Okay, anything else? All right, we'll vote on the motion. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
James Ryland.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Rayner. Yes. Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, moving on to a public hearing on the proposed Prairie Ridge West Plan Unit Development. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. And as Mayor DeWart stated, tonight's public hearing is on a planned unit development, and this would be the next phase of the Prairie Ridge development. And specifically what this ordinance would do would change just shy of 39 acres from A1 to a planned unit development that would have as a base zoning district medium density residential here. Now, to orientate everyone for this development is this highlighted area that we have right down here. E15 is located here. Washington Street and G28 is located right here. Now, the Epcon subdivision that we just discussed this evening is located right over here, and the current Prairie Ridge development is right here. Now, when we talk about a planned unit development, it's very important to note that under the city zoning code, this is a negotiated process with the developer. And the idea is reserved for projects that are a strategic need of the city of Pella on it. So in exchange for facilitating the project forward, oftentimes planned unit developments involve variances that are granted as part of the zoning process, but the developer also makes concessions as well. And typically the biggest concession that they make in these cases is in order to consider a planned unit development, they have to complete almost all the engineering on the project up front without any guarantees that the project would be moved forward. But in this case, what the developer will be going over the exchange, or what the city's benefit of it is mainly the housing design guidelines that we've established and continuation of the planned review committee for this development, similar to what we have with the initial phase of Prairie Ridge, and we'll explain that in the presentation. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, when we talk about the proposed housing development that we're discussing this evening, it's important to note that the intention of this development is for workforce housing under here. The ordinance that we are considering this evening, as we stated, contains design standards as well as a plan review committee. Now, when we talk about workforce housing, this probably falls in line with what the Iowa Department of Economic Development considers as far as a single-family house would be considered workforce housing. Right now, for small communities that are in an urban setting, I believe that threshold under their 2023 guidelines was at $298,000. The existing Prairie Ridge development for the first phase was very similar to that, with the homes that are being built out at Prairie Ridge, and that was at $306,000. Now, one of the items to keep in mind as we go through tonight's presentation, when we talk about workforce housing, you may be asking, well, how can we guarantee that it's going to come roughly close to that mark? One of the mechanisms that we have in this ordinance is continuation of the plan review committee. Now, currently, for the existing Prairie Ridge development, we have, before a house can be built in Prairie Ridge, the developer has to approve the application, which shows the design of the house, the layout of the house, and the sale price. The city has to approve the application, and the county has to approve the application. If one of the three does not approve it, then the City of Pella cannot issue a building permit on it. This plan review committee has worked very well for the initial Prairie Ridge development. To date, we've issued roughly 80-some building permits for the Prairie Ridge development. It's our understanding that the development, we anticipate issuing the 9 or 8 additional building permits later this fall for the development. So far the process has worked extremely well. The average price of the new home in the Prairie Ridge development was at $306,000 for that as well. So it's met the target range as far as workforce housing is concerned. Now let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, as far as housing needs are concerned, and this is one of the key items when we talk about performance with the city's comprehensive plan, housing as a key strategic priority in the city's comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan actually called for 480 additional housing units through the year of We've already exceeded that at the City of Pella since 2014. A better index on housing needs in Pella was the recent Marion County housing analysis that was completed here recently, and that identified an additional 1,270 housing units that would need to be constructed in our community to meet housing demands through the year 2035. And as you can see, that's a very big number that we have, and it's broken down what we have in the three categories that we have up here. So the new number that's probably a better, accurate description of the housing needs in the community is roughly 1,270 housing units. And that's very important to consider because remember, when we talk about planned unit developments, this ordinance does contain some variances for the developer from a zoning standpoint. In exchange for that, one of the key items that we need to make sure is that there's concessions on the developer, which means they're going above and beyond city code. The Plan Review Committee is definitely going above and beyond when you consider that the city will get the opportunity to approve the purchase price of these homes. The second item to consider when you go above and beyond is we need to make sure that it's a need within the city for a planned unit development. We believe, based off the recent Marion County housing analysis, that this project is needed in Pella, and housing in general is needed in our community. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. I believe we've covered this here as far as the comprehensive plan is concerned. It is important to note, as far as the future use land map, council with two developments, that would be namely the Epcon development and the original Prairie Ridge development. They're located in very close proximity to this development. Previously identified both of those projects as meeting or being in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan. We think this development, with being a continuation of the Prairie Ridge development, also meets that criteria, and as a result, staff believes that the proposed development that we're considering this evening meets or is in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan. Let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, we have a layout of the development, and when we consider the ordinance that we're considering this evening, if you recall, we said planned unit developments as part of the zoning, even the developer is required to do almost all the engineering up front. The plan that we have listed here, the developer will have to follow if the zoning ordinance is approved, and it involves 90 housing units. There's a lot that's zoned commercial that has not been identified for a use as of this time. But it's important to note that the developer is proposing to extend T15 up and through the development, and ultimately what will happen in future phases of the development is an extension of T15 joined up to West 16th eventually with the development. But once again, we have 90 housing units that are being proposed here. The developer will be required to follow or plan the development in accordance with this Exhibit A. So this is a very important document in the ordinance that we're considering this evening. Let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, equally important to note, if I was to tell you, if we were to tell you the intention of this development from a design standpoint, these were the exact same design requirements that we had for the original Prairie Ridge development. So the developer, the homes that you see here are going to be very similar to the first phase of Prairie Ridge that will be built in the development. The main difference is with the existing Prairie Ridge is the lots are going to be a little bit wider. Prairie Ridge generally had roughly 50 to 55 foot wide lots. The developer is proposing roughly 60 foot lots with this development. So the lots are going to be a little bit bigger in this phase 2. Let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, in summary, we believe this ordinance meets the requirements of the city's zoning code and is also in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan. And we are recommending approval of the ordinance as submitted this evening. It is also important to note that the Planning and Zoning Commissions previously reviewed this ordinance and they unanimously approved it as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the staff presentation. Be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mike. Any written comments, Mandy?
No written comments.
Council, comments, questions? Any member of the audience have a comment or question about this? All right, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Hopkins, Carlstone, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
James Ryland,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the ordinance number 1044, entitled an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Pella, Iowa by changing the zoning classification of property located north of Highway T15 and Highway G28 intersection, City of Pella, Marion County, Iowa. This is the first reading. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support. Van Strylen, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Reindeerhorn,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, moving on to resolution number 6719. Resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract, estimate of costs, receiving of bids, and making award of contract for the West 9th Street Improvements Project. I believe we're going to ask to delay this to August 6th. Mike, you want to explain?
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to. And as Mayor's Ward stated, for the proposed West 9th Street improvement, now what is being proposed in West 9th Street, if you were to drive out there, Washington Street is located right over here. Walmart Supercenter is located right here. The green highlighted area is the proposed upgrade to Washington Street. That road is currently a gravel road, asphalt overlay mixture on there. What's being proposed is to update it to a standard city street. Now, as far as the purple area is concerned, we have a new commercial building that's being proposed that was being proposed by the developers as a new Starbucks and T-Mobile office as well. The reason for the delay is staff has not received still with this the construction schedule for both the project as well as the sanitary sewer line extension to the development. And so we're asking, our recommendation is to delay this project to August 6th. Hopefully by then we'll have confirmation from the developer and they'll submit the construction schedule for both the project, for the construction project of the building and the site improvements as well as the sanitary sewer project. And that's the reason for the delay till August 6th.
Okay, thank you, Mike. So do I have a motion to delay consideration of this resolution to August 6, 2024?
So moved.
Support.
Miranda Horbst Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Reindeerhorn,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Mr. Mayor, as a matter of interest, that lot has not yet been mowed. Looks bad. Looks bad.
Looks tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to also want to state I believe that's currently a code enforcement issue that we're dealing with as well. So we have contacted the property owner on it. So it's going through that as well. So.
Okay. Moving on, resolution number 6726, entitled Resolution Fixing Date for a Public Hearing on the Proposal to Enter into a Development Agreement with the Courtyards Land Holding LLC and providing for public notice thereof. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. And basically, the long and the short of it is we're asking to establish August 6th as a proposed public hearing for development agreement for the EPCON residential development. Same development that we previously approved the urban renewal area for this evening on establishing for. This would be phase one of the development. Now, when we talk about the EPCON residential development, what we're talking about and what's being proposed by the development is a development that would be marketed to individuals 55 years and older that are looking to right-size their living needs. There would be first phase would be for 35 lots, so it would be this first phase right here. The public infrastructure cost for the development is roughly $2 million, and what's being proposed is to rebate the public infrastructure cost over the course of 15 years to the developer. There'll be considerably more detail shared on August 6th, but this resolution simply establishes August 6th as the proposed public hearing date for the consideration of the development agreement.
All right, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Van Strylen, Carlstone, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Reindeerhorn,
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to resolution number 6727, entitled Resolution Approving and Authorizing the Execution of an Access Easement Agreement with Quick Trip, Inc. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As Mayor DeWard stated, this resolution approves an access easement agreement with Quick Trip. Now, what this agreement does is it grants the city access to portions of the Quick Trip property for maintenance of the former railroad bridge that goes across Highway 163. That bridge is owned by the City of Pella. We actually have the easement across the Quick Trip property that's located up here. This easement agreement is necessary because previously when this parcel currently has an easement by the DOT to access the railroad bridge, that is being replaced because Quickstar is going to be building a building over that easement area, so they had to reroute the easement to the City of Pella. And that's the reason why this agreement is necessary this evening. So the agreement's been reviewed by legal counsel and staff is recommending approval this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Brandon Horst DeYoung, any discussion?
Why does it have to look like that? We don't have straight lines.
Well, Jerry, help me out if you could. I think in negotiation, when we talked about rerouting the easement agreement for maintenance of the railroad bridge, keep in mind that it has to conform with the Quickstar development or the new Quickstar building and the layout of it. So that's the reason why we have the relatively odd-shaped easement agreement on there as well. We also have access to the railroad bridge from an existing, I'd say, city-owned right-of-way as well. So we have 2 access points from this as well. So this was a requirement by the Iowa DOT on it, but it also has to conform to the development of Quickstar is the reason for the shape of the easement.
We're going to have to incur a cost every time so they don't get on their property. Yeah. I mean, this seems really hard to identify every time they go out there.
I believe they drew it, they meant it to be paved portions of their parking, their driveway, so that we can just drive through it. I understand.
Is this
They're gonna pave already.
Is this costing us anything?
No.
So it's just replacing the existing easement because the building's going to sit on a current.
We could have totally vacated, but there's currently some other small bridges that are out on the railroad right away. We couldn't drive it to cut the rest of the trees if we wanted it right now. So until we get a trail cut through there, across that bridge and pave, put some other smaller culverts or bridges in, we need some stuff from the side. This is one of them.
Okay. Let's see, we already did a motion. We're in the discussion phase. Any other questions? Okay, we'll vote on the motion. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Randall?
Yes.
DeYoung?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
And Strike?
Yes.
Motion passed. Can I get a motion for approval of abstract bills number 2155?
Move to approve and issue warrants.
Four.
Brander, Horstman, Stryland. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Randall?
Yes.
And Strike?
Yes.
DeYoung?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Motion passed. Any council members have any other business needs to be addressed this evening?
I'll be something with most of my attention about the courage of the Spirit Horse. Some of the comments I made last week were hurtful to her, and as a Jesus follower, I want to be contrite and humble hearted. So I want to apologize publicly to you and for things I said that hurt you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That takes a lot of courage to do that. So, thank you.
Anything else from the council?
I'd like to thank everyone for being here. You know, we have to make a lot of decisions on a lot of issues, and the more feedback that we have from the public, the better council we can be. And I realize that there are a lot of children that are going to go to bed late tonight, and I'm very appreciative. I love a full chambers. I love to be able to ask questions and understand what you want. So again, appreciate it, and hope to see everyone more often.
Okay, anyone else? All right, here's another opportunity for public input, hopefully not about soccer or pickleball. If you have any other issues you'd like to address council with, please step forward to the mic.
Yes, Dan Neutron on the phone.
Step forward to the mic. Try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Ann Summit, 1435 Hazel Street. I have been thinking a lot about what we call deferred maintenance and Band-Aid fixes. I think that's kind of where we're at with the soccer complex, the pickleball courts at Kiwanis Park, and things. So I went through, and this is just a list
I kind of made up of things I've noticed that have had some issues. West Market Park Playground, which I understand has now been fixed. Big Rock Park has a lot of issues. The community center we all know about. The indoor and outdoor pools, Band-Aid fixes there a lot of the time. The fountain downtown, the soccer complex, the hose tower by the old fire station, the Tulip Tower, which is now slated to be fixed, the tennis courts at Kiwanis Park. All of these are Band-Aid fixes, or deferred maintenance fixes. And I said, Band-Aids don't fix the problem. They just cover up or a massive infection. And it seems like everything we're doing not proactively, but reactively. And then things just get worse. So I was going through the agenda, and it kind of hit me when I was going through the payments. There was one for the architect for the new rec center. We just paid them another $94,850. And then it says behind that number 18. I'd like to know how much have we paid the architect already for something we don't even have yet? Is anybody willing to get an answer?
You can go to City Hall and they can give you that answer.
Okay, thank you.
I'm John Banstra from rural Mahaska County. Tonight you're going to discuss an update on the regional airport. As many know in here, 2 weeks ago, the South Central Regional Airport Agency paused the project because they were unable to acquire land. Let's review how that came to about. All the land that has been purchased has been more than 2 years ago when Mahaska County was part of the agreement. Since that time, Supreme Court ruled that Mahaska County could leave the 2080 agreement, which they did a few days later. With that, they took eminent domain. And you may wonder, what is the importance of eminent domain? At least 2 of the abstracts that were for the land that was purchased before Mahaska County left the agreement contain wording about eminent domain. When the attorney for the South Central Regional Airport was questioned about that, they said we always do our agreements this way. But after being questioned, within a few weeks, that language was quietly removed from all the abstracts. Now, to purchase this land, you're going to require eminent domain. Because if you think a gentleman that's owned a farm or been in the family longer than Pella has been in existence is going to happily sell his farm, you're badly mistaken. Now, does Pella have eminent domain? Not for territory in Mahaska County by the airport. Can they obtain it? They can't. Oskaloosa tried. Obviously, it didn't succeed, or we wouldn't be having this conversation this evening. So let me read a little bit from Rodney Joel, Acting Director, Central Regional Airports Division. If there is no active effort to construct a proposed replacement airport, the FAA will treat Pella and Oskaloosa airports in the same manner as any other airport in the National Plan of Integrated Airport System. So it looks like you have a decision to continue forward or rebuild your current airport. And before I sit down, I've also received a message from a party who would like to comment tonight via phone, but he has been muted. His name is Dan Neutron. I don't know if you wish to unmute him or not.
He's not muted.
He sent me
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. But let's wait till
This is
John.
Dan Neutron on the phone.
Hang on. We got to wait for John. You done?
I'm done.
Okay, so Dan, your turn.
Okay, thank you. I've tried to ask if I could talk and if you could hear me 3 times, but that's okay. So I'm opposed to the proposed regional airport and in favor of Pella withdrawing from the current and any future 28E agreement for this airport. I'm in favor of Pella using its funds to continue with its existing airport, renewing its airport use plan, and updating its existing master plan. I estimate 75% of the capability Pella needs exists in its current facility, improve on what Pella has. You may remember my July 2017 City Council comments regarding the same issues. As a reminder, I've made my career and life direction in aviation since 1980. As an air transport pilot, I've operated a variety of small piston aircraft and 6 types of jet aircraft during my 8,500 plus flying hours, and have been a subject matter expert building airports worldwide. The SCRAA expected regional airport does not meet Pella's aviation requirements. Please spend Pella's funds improving on a realistic, achievable airport capability. I look forward to discussing details on why Pella should withdraw from any proposed regional airport and focus on improving their existing and potential capability. And by the way, this is my second call in on this line. The first time I called in at 5:56 p.m. and 52 seconds into the phone call, I was, quote, muted by the host. That is from the public's perspective. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else, either online or here, want to comment on anything?
Good evening, Jonathan Erickson, 506 Spears Drive. First of all, I wanted to thank and applaud the city crew who, after the July 2nd downpour, was out the very next day patching and repairing streets in my neighborhood that had crumbled and lifted. So thank you. I also wanted to praise the mayor, city council, and staff for the tactical pause that was taken earlier this spring on the rec center project and for the plan that was laid out for the previous meeting on July 2nd. Even though the numbers that were recently presented are not set in stone, it gives council and citizens a real starting point to work off of. And this is the beginning of a plan that I can get behind. Mr. Mayor, thank you for being steadfast in the promise that none of these projects will raise city property taxes. Thank you. I know this isn't a question and answer session, but it was mentioned in the presentation that there's still potential that the new rec center could have anywhere from $275,000 to $382,000 worth of operating subsidy in the first 5 years. But this would be less than the current subsidy that we're spending on the indoor pool. I was wondering if the current subsidy for the indoor pool could be made known again, just for comparison's sake. I was also wondering if what the timing of the planned closing of the indoor pool would be, if it would be open until the completion of the new competition pool or after the rec pool. That would be something to consider during the logistics planning of this project. Also, in regard to the rec center, we were presented with some theoretical membership fees. I think this will help better gauge public interest in the project and whether or not families and individuals can afford to be members and support the rec center once it's built. I'm curious, though, if the study by Ballard King included a break-even point for the number of customers required so that we could have a goal or a target to shoot for. With Pella Fiber, it was estimated that about 2,000 customers would be our break-even point for the utility. I was wondering if we could get a similar figure for this project based on those theoretical membership fees that were presented. Lastly, I wanted to encourage everyone to work collaboratively, respectfully, and professionally on the project. In the last meeting, I witnessed council members and members of the public try to use fear and pressure to garner support. We should be able to continue to work on this project and solve problems together so that we can be confident in the plan and the way that it is funded. Thank you.
So I think Mike can reach out and answer all those questions pretty quickly. It's all in that. A lot of it is in the report. So.
Appreciate it.
Casey Sutton, 908 Brentwood Drive. This is about pickleball. But I kind of want to give a different perspective, as I don't know that there's a lot of representatives in my age group talking about this. So I kind of come as like a recent college graduate who is looking to make Pella my home because I love my job here. I have a lot of friends here. But to be honest, I'm not married and I don't have kids, so I kind of need something to do in town. And a lot of us do play pickleball. We enjoy playing it. It's a good way for me to interact with people in the community that are not like just my age, as well as my peers from other companies. And when we look at the bowling alley closing, axe throwing closing, Smash Park closing, This is something that we really like to do outside of work and on the weekends. It's a healthy activity for us, and whether we're really competitive or not as much on the competitive side, it's something that we all like to do together. But it's a little better now that we have some courts at Central to play on. But even when we just had Caldwell, it's hard because there's already pre-established groups in town, and everyone likes to play with who they play, and they're really welcoming and inviting when we want to join, but there's just not enough space on the courts, and so it's hard to show up because we want to do something together outside, and then we all just kind of have to go home because the amount of time you spend waiting to rotate through on courts is kind of discouraging sometimes. So we like playing pickleball, and we just encourage to continue to entertain the motion of getting more courts in town. It's something that I think would help keep our age group in town, and I know a lot of employers are struggling with retaining that 3 to 7 years out of college because people are coming to Pella, and then after 2 to 3 years they're moving out, and I think that this would help.
Okay, anyone else?
Nick Roner, 1313 North Prairie Street. Also another pickleball enthusiast, so I apologize, Mayor DeWard, for snowballing there. But to echo some of Casey's points, really the fastest growing population of pickleball enthusiasts is in that 20 and 30 something demographic. Really, we're seeing an explosion across the U.S. that's being mirrored here in Pella, and it is a sport that's being played by all different age demographics. We're seeing a court constraint, and that's still an okay thing because we're still able to collaborate and build partnerships and friendships with new people as we're waiting, but at the same time, everybody's time is at a premium, and we do want to enjoy that time on court as well. So we've been encouraged by the partnership with the City Council, with Central College so far. We really, on the Pella Pickleball Club, want to partner with Central going forward and find that's going to be our best path to meet the pickleball needs for the foreseeable future. Thanks for your time.
Jake Fancher, 1111 Park Lane. This relates to the soccer complex. I was a Pella Christian boys soccer varsity coach for 6 years, and I was the assistant coach last year. It's kind of embarrassing to host games. We have to host 1 or 2 games, and the girls do 2 every year, either out there or at the. We had to host one at the sports complex this year. There was no scoreboard, no clock, and it was kind of embarrassing to host people here for that. But the reason I came up to talk is in the proposed cost to improve the existing soccer complex, there's almost $600,000 it says to go to pave the entrance drive in the parking lot of the complex. That kind of seems, it doesn't make sense to me because you're using the complex in the summer, in the fall, in the spring. There's no need to push snow or do anything like that. So I think that's an extra cost of $600,000 that's put in here to make it look like the soccer complex isn't viable and move it all up to the sports complex. That's just my opinion.
Sorry, I've lost my voice a little bit. My name is Megan Hayes Copeland, and I live at 1719 Mill Drive. My backyard is the soccer complex. We love the soccer complex. My first time coming to Pella was for college 28 years ago to play against Central, and that drove us to keep continuing our passion for soccer on into our careers and with our children. We decided, and I'm sorry, I'm just shaking talker. We decided to move to Pella from Milwaukee, knowing what a great community this was and what a great soccer community it was, because we played college soccer against Pella natives, at Central. We were Duhawks, sorry. And we decided to be here and do that. And then not only do that, we decided to move right next to the soccer complex because we loved it so much. We loved the idea of having our children go out the back door and go to practice, lug our soccer balls from our garage and go out and coach. I cannot fathom why to spend more money for something that was already donated with the belief that it would develop more players into passionate players that would go on to play in high school, go to visit other communities, and spread the word about what a great community soccer, or great community Pella is, and soccer is in this community. That's what you want. You want to keep developing players that are going to go out to other communities and then hopefully bring it back to your community. When we get to have tournaments and people, when our parents came to come watch us play in college, I mean, we brought people to the town. So to put more money into something that seems to be, it keeps being a little bit of an empty promise, it feels like, where now we could have had the soccer complex up to what it was back in 2005, 7, 8, 10. Gorgeous, beautiful, great grounds, lights, people could play all day and night. I love it when people pull in at 7 in the morning. Yeah, I do. I love it. Saturday morning, 7 in the morning, let's go. 9:30 at night, the high school players are still out there playing. Yes, let's go. Let's hear it. I love hearing the cheering and the screaming and seeing the kids. I miss it deeply right now for being out at the sports complex. I've been told there's no parking out there. It's congested. We don't have the roads promised. The land's not promised out there. So I'm not sure where the future development can possibly go out there until all that is acquired. We have it now. We have lights, sprinklers, tiling, buildings, everything that Sarah said. We have it all. So why not invest in what we have instead of keep putting Band-Aid fixes on things? We have it. We can invest in it. And I don't understand where the thought that this development, which we just saw numerous houses already being built other places. So let's keep the green space. Let's keep community space. Let's keep a place where children can play and develop.
Good evening, Elizabeth Horn, chicken advocate, lover, Neil Drive. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. A lot of what Megan said, she's my neighbor, back up to the soccer complex, and a lot of what Megan said was what I had to say tonight as well. But our current complex is larger than the area that the kids have been pushed to at the baseball complex. I don't know how many of you have actually been out there during a game, but there's no parking at the baseball complex right now when soccer's going on, when you've got multiple sports going on, lots of practices. People are parking on the grass. So you've got a safety concern out there with the kiddos in the parking lot because it's congested. That's a problem out there right now. Anytime you have an amenity, it needs maintenance. And I can tell you that for the years that I've lived on Neil Drive, I have seen it go down and down and down. The grounds are not maintained out there. The pond is not maintained. You have stopped mowing out there, which it's not that big of a deal, but people can't really walk around the pond anymore out there. It just shows more neglect by the city. The proposed amounts for the soccer complex, it's due to the neglect of the area because it's been compounding over the years and it's not been taken care of, and there have been empty promises. I believe there was over $1 million approved to remodel an old child care building to move the city council into temporarily so you guys didn't have to look at the green tabletops anymore in here. Maybe some of that money could be redirected to an amenity in town. I'm curious how long the city has wanted to develop the soccer fields, how long it's been in talks for. That would be nice to know if that was made public, and how many houses you think you can fit back there. I heard tonight that you need, I think it's 1,200 homes, or 1,200 families. I'm not sure. I'm in the back, so I couldn't really hear very well. But those families are going to have kids, those homes, right? So where are they going to play soccer at? We already have an amenity. It's a large amenity. It's a beautiful amenity. It just needs a little bit of repair. I hear a lot about adding businesses, which is great, you know. that's fine. We need to grow. I understand that, hear it. But you're also stripping a community amenity while you're focusing on adding businesses. And Mayor, I heard you say that you hope that you didn't hear about pickleball and soccer anymore, but I hope that you do hear, and you validated that you did hear us tonight, that you do see that there are a lot of people here that care about the soccer fields. They care about it for their kids, for their family, they're passionate about it. The numbers here tonight should show you that. So I hope that you work together with Rush and with the families in this community, and that you're transparent. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, anything else?
I'm Rob Banstra, and I live at 420 Idaho, which is the backyard of the soccer complex. Probably one of the longer lot lines that butts up against the soccer complex, as opposed to the farm field to the south of it. But I think me and my neighbors have purchased those properties with the confidence that the city would maintain the green space in the backyard. We have enjoyed the soccer complex back there, the kids, the vibrancy that brings to our neighborhood. So I would be more concerned about what happens if the soccer field goes away. To me, as a taxpayer, you have a decision between the 2.8 or the 1.3, and as a taxpayer, then the half-price solution makes a lot of sense to me. But from the personal perspective, with the green space in the backyard, I would like to see a long-term plan for the city to retain that green space, whether it's soccer fields, it could be prairie, it could be pickleball courts, it could be a number of other community projects that we've expressed. And if you really need the money to develop the sports park on the opposite side of town, I'm sure you could satisfy some members of this audience by divesting of the property that we own at the airport out towards Oskaloosa. Anyway, I hope and pray that the City Council comes up with a comprehensive plan of maintaining the green space in that part of town in Ward 4 that needs it. That's what it was intended for. I'd certainly like to keep it that way, and I'll profess that that is a private citizen and a personal opinion, and but it's deeply, deeply held. Thanks.
Mary Van Wyck, 2007 Washington. I would like to just express a little interest in the soccer field. In 1997, my husband came to me and he said, Mary, we don't have a soccer field in Pella. We really need one. And he took me out to the farm and showed me, and he says, I think it's something we should get. So I am really quite interested in the soccer field and saving it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we're going to move to our policy and planning. We will start with pickleball. We have a presentation followed by discussion.
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to direct everyone's attention for discussion, as the Mayor said, on pickleball options for the city. And what we're here to talk about this evening is we're looking for input on both of these options that we'll be discussing. The first one that we have is a proposal from Central College for a partnership with the City of Pella, and that's to upgrade their current tennis courts to accommodate 12 additional pickleball courts. These courts would be, it's our understanding from city staff, these courts would be available to the public when they're not being used by the Central College athletic team. Now, the overall cost of the project, the latest estimates we had from Central at the time was roughly $675,000 for the project. Central is asking roughly they are requesting $300,000 from the city for the project. It's also our understanding that all maintenance would be handled by Central as well for the project. And in addition, we've heard from some of the groups fundraising for the project. Central is also working with the local pickleball group on fundraising efforts for the project as well. So the first option that we have is the Central College pickleball option. Mayor, we'd be happy to answer any questions on this option before we go to option number 2 and talk about that as well.
I'm not remembering those courts like it.
We have,
No.
But there is potential for that.
I'll take some money.
Have to do it.
Go ahead and talk about another inquiry that staff has received, and that's to upgrade the current tennis courts at Kiwanis Park. We talked about this project during the city's budget process. A little bit of background on the city's courts is the tennis courts were renovated in 2018, $24,000. Less than 2 years later, some of the cracks that you currently see started to redevelop on the courts as well. We recently went out for a resurfacing bid, and it came in over $30,000 over our budget, and that's when we started looking at options and discussing different options for the courts with the city council. Now, currently, what's in the current year's budget is $25,000 in the CIP, which would be to remove the courts and return it to green space, I believe, that we have. So it's important to note that full reconstruction of the tennis courts at Kiwanis Park, which would also include pickleball courts, would be roughly $500,000 for the city's consideration. And again, before proceeding with the demolition, there has been at least inquiries the city staff has received on the potential of upgrading these courts, different options for these courts. And we thought it was logical as we had the pickleball discussion tonight with Central to also talk about Kiwanis Park courts as well, Mr. Mayor. So that concludes the city staff presentation. Be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item. But ultimately, what we're looking for is direction on both items.
Yep. So we need to give direction whether to consider the $300,000 investment at Central, or if there's desire to do something more at Kiwanis. Well, I guess if you guys want to consider doing both, then that's a lot more money. So it's time for a discussion.
How many courts does it say? I have in my head it was 6 courts at once. Is that right or not?
Right now there's 6 tennis or 2 tennis and 6
I keep getting asked about these. 2 people right across the street have contacted me. I would say in the last 2 at the most 3 weeks, someone down the street on Madison Street. I think it would be a shame to tear down the fences and put grass there when, now we have the fences, and I know there's enough fence, but I hate to see the sport keeps growing. The needs are not going to get fewer. I think we need to save those courts.
The Kiwanis courts you're talking about?
Well, yeah, I would say the Central's a no-brainer. We have to support that $300,000 request. But I think the same thing is true with Kiwanis. What is it, Dan Schwertfeger? I don't know, my German's better than my English sometimes. Says people still show up there by bicycles and by cars and are shocked that it's padlocked, that they can't get in.
I see it as a neighborhood park, and it backs up to the Wonders Phelan Park. And neighborhood parks, we've heard from several people here that have parked the soccer complex in their backyard, that they like that. And I think neighborhood parks are valuable. I know the Rotary Park that just put in a pickleball court. When we were over there and they dedicated that, cut the ribbon, a lady said it was just great. She could let her grandkids go to that park. They didn't have to cross any busy streets, and she didn't have to worry about it. So I think neighborhood parks are very valuable. We have the land, we have the fence, and I think we can find the money.
So, John, you're proposing both?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. I'm that Central has made numerous statements about wanting to become more integrated into the community. So again, I love that. I love that. And I also think that we have to try to figure out the Kiwanis courts as well. I don't know if there's a temporary something. I get it that that's a Band-Aid when I say temporary. But to be able to do both, where's Paula? Paula, you have that can-do attitude. I have no doubt that your organization can roll up their sleeves and help us get both of those locations.
I think that's kind of our ultimate goal, honestly, is to get dedicated courts as well. We look at Central College, which has been a huge opportunity for like a stopgap for us to like get on their courts, participate in their community, and just, I mean, it's kind of overwhelming the opportunities with that to be play with students. They can play with people in the business community. During young, old, all of us can be on there. But the ultimate goal is to definitely have the dedicated courts. But adding more dedicated courts is just going to give us more opportunities because we had a huge tournament. This is kind of like our second or third time. I mean, not it was our personal first tournament, but we've had other tournaments in town. Well, we had one of the biggest tournaments in the state with 90 people. It was our first time because we had the facility at Central. You add more courts, you have more opportunities to have bigger journey. And if Smashburg comes back, then we'll have like an indoor facility as well. And then with the rec center, I mean, the potential is huge. Yeah. So yes, you would have the support of you to do the dedicated courts. We would be your biggest cheerleaders. And when that would happen, and of course, you just have us as your biggest cheerleaders to help Central. Okay. So we're here.
Can I ask the pickleball group, redoing the courts at Kiwanis, because we've had many conversations about Central and then dedicated courts. Does doing the Central courts now, if we talk about redoing the Kiwanis courts, are those two projects something you can fundraise for? Okay. You would be willing, I know we talked about 5 years, but if we want to do these, sounds like council is interested in doing both now. So obviously we're going to have to find the money for this. I'm all for all of this, but we have to find the money. So most of the time when we do these projects, we expect some kind of private support to get them done. So if we say, tell staff to, we're doing the 300,000 because that's a quick, we're going to have 12 court, is it 12? 12. We're going to have 12 courts like this fall, so that's an easy do it. But we're probably talking close to $1 million for the two projects.
So I guess I have a question.
So can we rely on the pickleball group to provide some of the funding for the permanent courts other than Central? That's my question.
We're going to embark on a fundraising campaign, kicking it off here this week.
Once we get the go, we'll be starting our capital campaign for Central College. That's kind of our.
And what's the investment? What's the investment for the Central College project? If the city puts $300,000 in, that's what Central's asked for. So city is meeting Central's question or their request. 300,000. The city's meeting that need to build the courts. What is the pickleball group going to do at Central?
Kind of in there. What we would contribute would be doing the lines for the pickleball courts, adding on to the Central College tennis courts, and then starting out with 6 professional portable nets, and each net is $2,500 a piece. So we would start with 6. So our initial investment is $35,000.
Okay. So everybody understands that?
Yeah, I want to go back bigger picture first. Based on our current stats, we are projecting the demands for pickle. How many courts is needed in Pella,
Well, right now we have 6 at Caldwell. We used to have 12, and then we have 4 at Smash Park. So one time, we had 18 courts.
We've had more than that because we had the building at the rec complex before, and inside the community center, there was 1 or 2 courts that could be in there. So we've had more in the past. I think that's in the history that she handed down.
I know where we were before, but what would we, I don't want to get all this spent and then boom, demand is skyrocketed and everybody's quit soccer, which would be terrible, and gone pickleball, and now we need 45 courts, I want to do a little more planning to just, we have a comment tonight about, quick fixes, and I think it's wise to kind of say what we need to be shooting at first before we just do the inventory thing and kind of try to do the inventory. Now, since I have the floor, I'm in support of the Central College partnership. I want Pella and Central College to be deeply connected partners. I think that is a great vision kind of journey, but I think we ought to I think we ought to well plan what our end goal is, and therefore, after that's reached, find the best location for it. The tournaments are a big thing. Is splitting tournaments up at 6 here, 4 there, 2 there, 8 there. Is that ideal? My opinion would be probably not. We're obviously, I'm very support of having a centralized recreational hub for our city because it can support, so that it can support tournament work and infrastructure and food supply support and exit off the highway support and on and on. I think we could do these things. I don't want to blow $500,000 somewhere that gets you X, but it doesn't accomplish the big picture goal. And I think that's what I feel is my charge up here, is bigger picture vision, direct the city, and have trust our excellent staff to make those small executional steps.
Doing the Central College, doing the pickleball lines, that's kind of like the go-to now, to kind of see, do you know what I mean? It's a short-term thing to see, how things go, basically, like kind of what you're saying, so we would have the 12 courts. But ultimately, there's a huge difference between playing online courts versus dedicated courts. And dedicated courts are what you have at Caldwell and what we had at Kiwanis. It's just easier to show up, do you know what I mean, to show up and stuff. But we're super excited also about the Central College, having 12 courts in one space, using their facility, having the bathrooms, all of that. So,
if we fix something in the last 2 years, which is what happened in 18,
I will say this
that's
too.
not an excellent solution.
Jenna, I have a question. What do you honestly think the lifespan of Caldwell is? Because it's already, Jenna, like, what do you think that the potential for Caldwell is for its longevity?
The Caldwell courts are concrete versus asphalt, so they'll have a longer lifespan just because of that. And then if we continue regular maintenance every 4 to 5 years, we should be able to be at least 25 years old.
The one thing about the Caldwell courts is they're already you can see the cracks now. They're starting to form on the courts. They're getting a lot of use, and they're already some of the paint is kind of wearing down already, and those were just redone a couple weeks ago.
You have to remember, a lot of people play pickleball have no interest at all in playing in tournaments. So we're not just talking about tournament pickleball play.
I think my point isn't just that. Thanks for clarifying where I was not clear. But if we're putting dollars in, I think we need to think about, is that in the best interest of the pickleball interest? Is that in the best interest of infrastructural support so that we can properly budget for maintenance over the years? I'm sorry that I miscommunicated that if I did. I'm for park-based courts as well, but if they're the very expensive way to do it, then maybe we need to rethink that as well.
Who would be the best person to give information to about a feasibility study if we were to gather that information for you?
Well, I don't know what the hierarchy is. Ultimately, I would say so. I
have one more question, I guess. So let's say that do Central, which we're super excited about, and potential to do more, go to Kiwanis and things like that. What timeline does that look like? Do you know what I mean? As far as, like, let's say it would be a go. Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3? By the time you have engineering and all that done, what does it look like? The quickest that you could do at the facility.
I think the time is the money, argument. I mean, I think you guys go
Let's say
raise
the
some
pie in the
funds.
sky, the money, we have the money.
That's probably Jeanette has talked to the contractors. And so, put you on the spot. Is it 12 months?
Enough money you can get courts built probably in 6 months, but no,
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends on the location and what kind of design you're going for, what amenities. There's really a lot that we need to go into it for planning, so I don't have a good answer for it.
I mean, frankly, the Kiwanis Court's at $12,000 a year, or at this point the bid was $30,000 over budget to fix as is, if that's even still an accurate bid. That's $25,000 or $30,000 a year for 6 courts to stay inactive, which are dangerous because you are painting over these earthquake lines apparently. That's not a good. That's what we've done in the past, and I want a bigger vision in that for our community.
Well, I think the way I understood it, Jeanette, they aren't repairable anymore. They need to be, the whole base and everything needs to be tore out and redone, right?
Right, yeah, I mean, just the age of that asphalt that's on there and the reappearance of cracks, it's really would not be staff's recommendation to try to repair these.
So the option of spending $24,000 doesn't exist. If we want to keep pickleball courts at Kiwanis Park, we're going to have to spend $600,000-$700,000. Probably similar to what Central's spending, $600,000-$700,000 to just redo it, make them new. Then they're going to last for 25.
I would be interested in before. Obviously, we have intense community support for pickleball, and I don't want the urgency just to force us into this location. If we're going to invest this money in pickleball courts, which I think we should, it seems that the public consensus there is less, okay, if we're going to allocate these dollars, is this the best part, at least the best place, at least ask the question, is this the best location, is this, to Spencer's point, the best infrastructure around it for whatever the other ancillary uses would be, or services, I should say. So I'm not opposed to spending money on in addition to Central, but actually having some conversations in addition to say what's the best. Maybe it's at the, somebody said maybe it's at the soccer complex, maybe it's across the parking lot from the other football courts, whatever. So not just jumping into it without asking some questions, I guess.
And I think Councilman Carlson has a good idea that we should do a study, or at least get an idea of how many courts we should have, and not, we don't have to do this today, but we need to start thinking about it. That we need to study how many we should have, and to your point, Dave, where they should be, and how much it's going to cost. And I'm a little surprised that the lines cost so much money. Sorry.
No, I agree with that as well. I retract my earlier statement of a temporary fix. I think in pondering and listening to this, I think that gentlemen are spot on this, that we need to measure twice and cut once on this one. And even look at the stability of the soil. Maybe that's why we keep having this continuing crackage is there a better soil base within the community that would support a court for a longer amount of time.
Okay, so to summarize what I'm hearing, because we need to let staff know what direction, I'm hearing a lot of support to support the Central project. That's going to give us 12 courts by fall. It's going to get us going. Then to get some more information about how many pickleball courts moving forward, locations, potential locations. I think we should also talk with the pickleball group to eventually create a partnership, a fundraising partnership to pay for new ones, whether they're Kiwanis or the sports park or the wherever it ends up making the most sense. Is that what I hear? So Mike has the hard part now is to find us the $300,000. Because if we're saying come back with this, as we want to support this proposal to support the Central College, then we need to come back with official. Right now it's just discussion. We come back, Mike will fill in the blanks on funding and all of that to officially approve it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Can I burden you with 2 more things? Please?
Go ahead. I'm going to have to get another bottle of water.
Okay. You brought up Smash Park a couple times. It drives me nuts that there are beautiful courts out there that are all locked up. We talk about collaboration. There has got to be a way to open those up.
If it comes back, I feel like we have a good case.
They're walled off. You should be able to use those courts with the rest of the building all sealed off. I mean, there's got to be a way.
Well, Mark, we have our attorney here, but I wouldn't advise because that's a private problem.
Okay.
There's a bank. I mean,
okay.
I can say if it comes back, you want to know what we have in our database?
I don't want you going in there.
All right. Get out the handcuffs. And then the other thing is, depending on how we want to do the lines and whatnot, there's the potential for pickleball courts in the proposed rec center.
Yeah, that's part
How
of
many
that too.
lines you want to paint on those basketball courts is another matter.
I think with the four gym proposal, there was 16, right? Was there 16, Jeanette?
There was 3 on each, so 12.
12 courts, indoor courts, potentially at the new rec center.
On gym court.
All right, so our plan, we got a plan. We're going to support the Central College project, and then we're going to get to work on something more, some more permanent courts somewhere. Okay. All right, we'll move to the soccer complex discussion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, what we're here to talk about this evening is options for the city's soccer programming within our community. If you recall, during the past budget work sessions, we spent a considerable amount of time talking about soccer options, and we said with this budget year that we schedule work sessions. This is the initial work session. And so what we're looking at is to try to develop a strategy for soccer programming within our community. A little bit of background, what you see pictured there is the current city soccer complex that we have. Now, as far as the soccer complex itself, just to clarify, as council is aware, the irrigation system is in need of repair. And as a result, the Iowa Rush Soccer Club programming has currently been moved out to the Pella Sports Park. So, Mandy, let's go ahead. Now, the first option that we have is repairing the existing soccer complex, and what the current CIP has, this is what is being budgeted by the city currently, is just shy of $1.3 million for soccer complex improvements. What we have scheduled for this year is replacement of the irrigation system along with complete field surface renovation. That's approximately 18 months worth of work that we have. Estimated cost of that is just shy of $671,000, and what we have here is a picture of the complex along with the fields. Now in 2026, we've also listed other things that we've heard over the years and requests for the soccer complex as well. One of the bigger ones that we've received is the parking lot on it. This deals with dust from the neighbors abutting to the property. We put it in for council's consideration on it, and I want to state up front, the size and scope of all these projects is up to the city council on it, but what the budget has in 2026 is roughly $589,000 to pay the entrance drive and parking lot of the soccer complex. Now, a little bit of background before we talk about option number 2, and that would to be build a new soccer complex. The city's rec program that we currently have growing every day, but we have approximately 525 participants in the city's recreation program. City's recreation program takes place from August to October, and we play at the Pella Sports Park. The Iowa Rush program that we got for their user agreements that they signed with the city, I believe the latest numbers that we had was roughly 270 participants for 2 programs, and their time period spans from April through October of the given year that we have as well. So let's go ahead before we circle back and talk about options. One of the options that we talked about, and this has been an ongoing discussion for some time at the city, is the potential to move the soccer complex to the Pella Sports Complex. The diagram that we have here is the city-owned property, so the soccer complex that we have here is Oskaloosa Street or Old Highway 163 is located right here. The main entrance to the Pella Sports Park is located right here. This highlighted area is where the new soccer complex would be located at, is right here. The estimated cost of the new soccer complex would be roughly $2.8 million that would incur. Now, according to the benefits of this approach, is a couple things. It would consolidate our maintenance efforts in maintaining the fields on it. What we've had when we originally built the Pella Sports Park is in the master plan for the Pella Sports Park, this was identified as just future multi-fields, this area, and there's always at the discretion of the city to accommodate needs as needed. So this area has always been identified as some sort of athletic field use that we had in our master plan as well. Now, Mandy, let's go ahead, please. Now, one of the items that we have, if we can back up, please, on this option as well. One of the items that we could do with this, if we were to add the soccer complex on this, the fields located on Neal Drive would be available for other uses if needed. We did recently have a housing assessment in the community that talked about an additional 1,200 homes that would need to be constructed to meet housing demands through the year 2035. The area that abuts Neal Drive out there would be ideal for a housing development that could be a potential use that we would have. One of the thoughts is by selling the land, or that could help reduce the cost of building a new soccer complex. And that was the discussion that we had during the budget work sessions. Now, in considering both of our options, here's some facts that we had that we did as far as research that we were able to pull together on it. Originally, the soccer complex was purchased in 1997 for $140,000 by the City of Pella that we had. Now, at the time, a committee was formed that raised money for the project, and they raised over $753,000 to build the complex, and that included the cost of the land as well. And we talked about if we were to choose right now to sell the soccer complex, at least the information that we've reviewed on it is we do not believe there's any deed restrictions or property restrictions at the existing soccer complex if we wanted to redevelop that property for another use other than the soccer complex. And that's at least based off our initial review. Now, as far as the improvements at the city's soccer complex, that's up to the discretion of the city council. If we're talking just the irrigation system and field improvements, that number is $676,000. If the project expands and you start talking about other items such as paving parking lots, the number, if it's a paved parking lot, is roughly $1.3 million. And here's where the rubber hits the road when we talk about park improvements, similar to what we're going to have to talk about with the pickleball court uses coming up with the funding. If we were to issue a bond issue for this amount, we believe the city's tax rate could increase by approximately 19 cents if we were to fund the soccer complex at the $1.3 million level. If it's less than that, $676, it'd be about half of that amount. But we want to make sure everybody's aware of this, because what would happen in funding the program is we go through the engineering, we get bids for the project, and shortly thereafter we issue the debt service. But the key point is, time we make the decision, you're talking about a future fiscal year in which the debt service would actually kick in. So this would be not this current fiscal year, but it would be next year during budget session on it as well. And so that's always an item of discussion with the city's property tax rate, property tax impacts. But at $1.3 million for discussion purposes, it's about a 19-cent increase. At $2.8 million, it could be right around 38 cents as well. We would also like to mention under Iowa law, if the amounts of these projects get above $900,000, there is a possibility that they may require a public referendum as well on it. So we need to keep that in mind as far as the project, and that's why one of the things in considering projects, if we're going to issue debt for the projects, they're always subject to a referendum up to $900,000. It could be a reverse referendum above $900,000. It's likely that it would require a public referendum as well. So again, the current complex cost range from $676,000 up to $1.3 million, depending on the size and scale of what the City Council deems is necessary. At the sports park, again, we had roughly a $2.8 million estimated cost to build a new complex at the Pella Sports Park. That cost could be lower with the proceeds of the sale of the existing complex that could be applied towards the cost of this project. In addition, that property could be used for other uses such as housing, support housing within the community. So that's the background information. Mandy, do we have any additional slides on this item? Okay. So once again, this is the initial discussion this evening, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And I would like to state, when we talked at the budget work session, we realized how complicated this matter could be on it. We anticipated a series of work sessions as well. So we realize that we've probably not supplied all the information necessary to make a decision. That's okay. We're going to be happy to provide it, but that's what we're intending to do. We're looking for direction, Mayor, and if we need to provide additional information, we'd like that direction from the council.
Okay, thank you, Mike. So I think our discussion, I don't think there's any question that the council is supporting doing something for soccer. We need to have a discussion about, there's probably two options: to redo the current facility or move it to the soccer, to our sports park. I think if you look at the costs, I think it's pretty much a wash, because that current soccer complex is 28 acres. Land on the edges of Pella is selling for $40,000 an acre, so land inside of Pella that already has significant infrastructure, probably even worth more than that. So you're probably talking well in excess of $1 million of an asset there that the city could recoup cost on. Just facts. I'm not advocating either way. These are just facts. So I think from a cost standpoint, either redoing the current one or building a new one could potentially be the same cost for the city to do. So we heard impassioned pleas for keeping it where it is. I understand that. So I think we need to, again, I think we need to think long term. That's our responsibility, is to think well into the future. What's the best for the community in the long term?
Mayor, can I say something since Mr. Nardini said that the neighbors in our neighborhood said something? So I feel like I should respond. He said that we complained about dust.
About what?
The dust from the road, and that's not the case. None of us have had issues, and my home butts right up to that gravel road. We have no problem with that at all.
Okay.
92123 as well. The 3.2 or the 2.8, what year was that estimate? Because I believe that was back in 2021, and with inflation, it's going to be up towards 3.2 now. The 2.8, I don't think is relevant anymore.
Jeanette, correct me if I'm wrong, during budget sessions, we've got that number upgraded to the current estimate. Is that correct?
Correct, we did. It was updated.
Is the 670 and just short of 600, two pieces for the complex also updated, or those are the numbers?
Those were updated as well for budget this year.
Is the 670 the minimum the complex needs to be safe to play? And I know we were playing on it long before it was, or long after it was safe to play.
That number would revert the field back to better than they were before. So
is there would there be a plan to potentially bridge one more cost effectively, two more time efficiently? Because as a wet season's about coming. So is there a fix?
To address all the issues that have been brought up about the soccer complex, there's no shortcuts if we want to address everything at once. Our time frame for addressing some of those issues in Fitty's way has passed. As far as construction of an all-new facility at the sports park, I'd have to go back and get an estimate on that.
It seems to me that there's a disparity in cost between the two. And is it just based on the proposed 5 at the rec complex and the existing, those 2, 4, 6, 10 at the soccer complex? Is it just simply site work grading?
There's a lot of dirt work that would be involved out at the Pella Sports Park site, plus you'd have the addition of lights, which are very expensive. And then, there'd be a lot of, basically it's a lot of dirt work and terracing, and then you'd have utilities that you need to put back over there, because that price does include a restroom facility as well. So.
I think you made a key point there is half the amount of fields. That's half the size.
And 22 kids went on field at one time. That's a lot more
Plus
than
parents. How many people have gone to a different town to go watch an issue, president, whatever. A lot of people can.
It doesn't seem like it'd be a wash. If you're gonna make the same size as $5.6 million, you get the same size soccer complex. And then I think, I'm guessing most soccer parents would appreciate just getting the facilities back up and running. Because this fall is gonna be a nightmare with scheduling. And there's gonna be so many kids out there, and parents, they're gonna be out there all night, and there's lights out there at the current, sports park.
So am I hearing correctly that the preference of a majority of soccer families would prefer to have the program left at the existing facility with improvements made? I want to make sure I'm hearing that correct.
$600,000 area. Why are we spending $5.6 million? 2.8 get half of it, not half.
Can I just make a correction on that number? When those 6 fields that were put in at the sports park, there was also consideration to add additional smaller fields over where the current fields are. So the overall plan was to have 10 fields for club use at the sports park, even with that new addition.
So this is highlighted here, but there's actually doing the work where
correct. So there would be the little smaller, like U8 6 field would be over north of the pond in that area, kind of similar to what we're doing right now. And then this plan also calls for lighting 3 of the fields over in the new area. Or that cost included that when you can always light more.
You know, that rec center gets really busy when so much stuff is going on already. You have baseball going on, you have softball going on. Now if we put in a soccer field over there, the way it is, soccer's way on the west end of town. And the White family, that field was donated by a good friend of mine, Gene Van White. I think it's just a no-brainer to fix it up. You hear people that say, I like the green space over there. I like the area of a park, green space idea. I think the shame is, I talk to parents and I talk to coaches of little kids 2, 3, 5 years ago saying, how come we aren't doing anything? This is when I wasn't on city council. And we pushed it back, and we pushed it back, and we pushed it back, and now it's in a real mess. And I think somehow we ought to start, like yesterday, to start putting some money into this thing and getting the present Gene Van Wyck field fixed. I think a lot of people have spoken tonight.
Hey, Jeanette, can I ask you, the current soccer, there's a lot of soccer fields out at the sports complex now, small ones. That's adequate for our city-run program, right? What we're doing there. or the fields that are there, does that take care of our, what do we have, 525 or 570 kids in the soccer program?
Yeah, previous to this, we had 10 fields marked out there. I think we have 13 this year because we squeezed in a few smaller ones. But yeah, our program was running fine on the existing fields that we were using.
So the potential, the new 5 new fields to this other complex wouldn't need to be used for our city program. It could be dedicated to
No, not at all.
sport to the club.
No, and then what we're saying is that we have additional fields for club use.
Yeah.
In the current area.
I'd like to clarify. I'm hearing that the ground was donated. I'm hearing that the ground was purchased by the city.
According to the
The
records
narrative
that
matters in people's reflections on what they're interpreting here. So I'm trusting
based
the
on
purchased it.
yeah, based on our research and what we found that's currently out of the Marion County Assessor site, the city purchased it from Richard Steinhook in 1997, I believe, for $147,000. But there was a fundraising group that was formed at the time that raised $753,000 for the project that funded the purchase price of the land.
One of the newspaper articles attached talked about wanting to dedicate it to Gene because of his heroic efforts to champion youth sports. I mean, it's really important. The narrative matters, and we're in an era where people are kind of writing their own narratives. But I think this is an almost identical argument to the pickleball argument. So I won't bore you with talking as much as I did the last time, but I think our job up here, and I feel like my charge up here, is to certainly hear both sides of the story, perfectly walk a mile in each shoe, but then also cast the vision for what's in our best interest, because we're throwing large dollars at projects, and it's easy to. And I'm a soccer fan and dad and coach, and it's an important issue to me. But we have to do things wisely, or we spend significantly more dollars and take significantly more time. And so my 2 cents would be: is there a more time and cost-efficient bridge to get our kids to be able to play at the current complex as soon as possible, that we can use as a bridge, as we are utilizing Central's support in the pickleball, to get to where we can get to with a visionary soccer complex at our sports and rec hub, where it's fit to go. I have, as a coach at the rec, and I know all the coaches out here can relate, how many visiting coach phone calls have you answered to direct them to the soccer field, right? That's just one of many hassles about where it currently is. However, this is off a major asset. I think that's just one unmentioned benefit of moving the complex eventually. Expansion is another benefit that hasn't been mentioned here. So it's great to hear the passion. I think, Lynn, you alluded to that earlier. This is what city government is about. I think my charge up here in this seat, for however long I sit here, is to cast big vision and let our excellent staff make the right choices and advice to us. So if I'm hearing, Janet, you correctly, I mean, Don, you were trying to point this out, we have 10 to 16 currently existing rec fields, which are really in good shape this year. 5 additional with expandability at this site. Yes, the dollars are significantly different, but that's not an apples and apples comparison. I'll voice my side, since this is what we're talking about. I think we need to find a cost and time efficient bridge to get us to this master plan, because I think it's our future's best interest to have that expandability here.
Okay.
Will more parking be added out there then?
because right now, if you add five more fields, and there's the rec going on through the city program, and if there's rush out there, there's not gonna be parking. People are gonna be parking on the grass, and then if you're on the grass, then you have the liability of the kids running in between the cars and the grass and chasing soccer balls. Whereas out of the soccer complex, you have a perfectly good parking lot if it's taken care of. You have 10 fields out there already, so why not use what you have than to spend $1 million more and wait, 3 years to get this done? If we can get the other done in 18 months?
Which is not as partying, other kid.
So bridge option, another local area person would say, I don't care about the dust, so subtract the cost of paving and achieve an 18-month delivery, and then have a better plan similar to like pickleball assessment to understand the field usage needs associated where and how rush could actually contribute, and maybe have tournaments, understand how a sports complex solution could utilize concessions and actually earn more for the city. So I see a short-term bridge of fixing an 18-month period with half the 1.3 for a longer-term plan that could take this on. Plus it falls underneath that 900K. Plus you don't keep adding to a tax. And I'm sure even though if you were to sell that land, you'd then be looking at another conversation here about facilities and extending some sort of other public question around that to try to develop there. So.
Also left out the fact that the high school does use that. So you concentrated the question about our rec using it. Our high school players use it when there's a JV tournament that gets hosted out there. When there's the girls team and the guys team both play in the same town, and they need two facilities to play at. So our high school players do use it. And actually within this past couple of months, I've had to go out to the parking lot a couple of times and tell people where the other soccer field is across town. Because they know after 20 years where the soccer field is.
Don't you want people going through our towns to spend money in our businesses instead of taking a shortcut and just driving around this? I mean, I'm thinking as far as like, them exposing people to our town and them spending money in our town, seeing how great it is. You don't want to just dump them right off the highway. That's what I'm thinking. These repairs are basic maintenance repairs that if they had been done years ago, we would not be in this situation.
Well, we can't go backwards, so
Right,
it
okay.
doesn't do us any good to talk about if
Right,
something was done.
vegetation,
It wasn't
that
done.
happens.
We got to move forward.
Holes,
We got to look
that
forward.
happens anywhere. You're going to have the same problems at a new facility.
I think this is such a unique situation right now because in the years I've been on the council, rarely, right, Mark, do we get neighbors passionately saying, don't take that away from our neighborhood. I mean, this is astonishing and quite delightful to hear. And the fact that, the neighbors want you to stay, the club wants to stay, if that's what I'm hearing, then I think we ought to stay.
The energy out there is beautiful.
Yes, well, and to your point, in a lot of communities, facilities are separated for just that reason, so that when you have a need or a weekend with multiple tournaments going on, baseball, soccer, football, pickleball, everyone isn't all congested at the same place. So, and also we're putting that wonderful new Quick Star out in that area so they can go grab some chicken strips in between older chicken strips. The flavors are good too.
We just had the Red Rock Police Festival. They have their target out there at the soccer fields as well.
That's
so
cool.
they also use the fields.
Yeah, I'm just a big proponent. Let's leave it where it is. Let's fix it. And soccer players and neighbors embrace each other because this is very refreshing for me. Very refreshing.
But what about the challenge of getting someplace for people to practice, just practice now? soccer complex and all usable, or they can all be unusable, can they? I don't know.
The complex was based on the complaints that we got that all the playing surfaces were unsafe for use, so.
All, okay.
I'd say they're in pretty good shape after they haven't been used in the last year. The small fields, the larger ones, perhaps not so much, but the small fields are, we didn't get a lot of rain, and they've been well taken care of.
They just need goals put up out there, is that right? Is that part of the deal?
If you had a breakdown of the proposal, and then, you could work with Rush on the immediate safety needs that need to be addressed. That would be good.
I'm not sure I have a summary, figured out a summary here yet. I mean, I've heard individuals with some passion for different, but I'm not sure I have a consensus.
I'm ready to go with renovating existing, forget paving parking lots, and start planning for the future.
So spending the $670,000 to redo, so that does the irrigation system and digs up the clip. I mean, I walked out there with soccer people to look at it, and I see the ruts and everything. That 600 does the irrigation system and redoes all the surfaces of all the fields?
Correct.
And nets can't cost a lot compared to some of the
I'm sure
others.
Rush will help out.
I don't think the nets are the big.
Well, no, but I'm saying, let's get it going.
Well, don't we already have the nets for the facility?
Do we have them?
Did they move them or take them, hide them, or?
Disappeared?
There always were nets out there. I assume they still have them.
Thought there was a net request.
Well, we've closed, the soccer complex has been closed because of the safety issues with playing. So,
There's not a cheaper bridge, a cheaper, quicker fix to get the kids there sooner than internet, 6 soccer seasons away.
That's certainly something, I mean, we could look into. It's not a question I can answer tonight, but.
well, I think from what I'm hearing, I'm hearing at least 4 support to fix what's there. Got it in the budget. We've already got a plan. Let's bring it back to approve it and get it going. And I agree. I think we need to also start talking about longer term.
Are we talking about the soccer complex or about the airport?
We're talking about the soccer complex. We're still on the soccer complex. Okay, so I think it sounds to me like the consensus is to go with the plan we kind of talked about at budget, not worry about the parking lot, that in the next fiscal year, but in this fiscal year, we'll start the process of updating the irrigation system and the fields. Get them as playable as soon as possible. In the meantime, everybody's going to have to accept the fact that we're going to have to make do with what we have at the sports park for the short term. Is that what I hear? Yep. Okay. All right. Regional airport update, Mike.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and we have an update for the City Council. Just so the Council's aware, at the July 3rd South Central Regional Airport Agency meeting, the board actually approved a resolution stating that they were not able to complete acquiring the remaining land for the project. We'll have a map up here very shortly of the regional airport property. But basically, what they stated is because they're not able to complete the land acquisition for the project, they do not plan to pursue the regional airport project unless instructed by the City of Pella and the City of Oskaloosa. Now, from city staff standpoint, we'd be happy to answer any questions on this, but overall, we agree with that assessment of the South Central Regional Airport Agency as far as being able to acquire the property for the regional airport. And what we're really looking for, and we want to make sure before we proceed with what we view if the project's on hold or not moving forward on it, we will have to do items that would be necessary for the current project. One of them is amending the current 2080 agreement. The reason for the amendment is the City of Pella and the City of Oskaloosa, the SCRA rather, owns 378 acres of property with that. And if the SCRA would not proceed, they've received over $6 million in federal grants for the project as well. Those grants will have to be addressed through the Federal Aviation Administration. It's far more easier and convenient if the South Central Regional Airport Agency was able to address the federal grants for the project. If the SCRA dissolves, and staff's understanding, the property would revert shared between the City of Pella and the City of Oskaloosa, but you have the complicating factor that the federal grants have been issued to the South Central Regional Airport Agency. So we believe that the 2080 will have to be amended regardless if the project proceeds or not. But before proceeding with the amendment, we wanted to make sure that we sought to have this discussion with the City Council, and we answered any questions that the Council may have. And at the end of the meeting, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page on the course of the project. Mandy, if you could pull up the map of the regional airport, please. What we have here is the map of the regional airport. The City of Oskaloosa is located right here. The project's approximately 4.5 to 5 miles outside of Oskaloosa. But when this project was originally planned, it was planned on an intermodal basis, and the Oskaloosa 63 bypass project is located right here. The Iowa Department of Transportation is currently in process. It's our understanding of acquiring property for that project. The regional airport was planned in close proximity to the project. For the regional airport, to date, the SCRA has acquired 378 acres of property on a voluntary basis for the project. There has not been a use of eminent domain for the project. It has roughly 220 acres left of the project. We believe to complete the project, about 150 acres would need to be acquired fee title. Somewhere between 50 to 60 acres would need to be acquired via navigation easement on the property. But it's still 220 acres that would be remaining left to be acquired for the project. And that's where the SCRA is unable to acquire the remaining land for the project. And so, again, what their communication to the City of Oskaloosa and the City of Pella is they're unable to complete the project. The next step in the project is to focus on the Pella Airport if we're unable to complete the regional airport. But before doing that, and also amending the 2080 agreement, working with the FAA to address the property that's currently owned by the South Central Regional Airport Agency, and also address the grants that are outstanding on the project as well. Before we start going down that path at the City of Pella, we wanted to make sure that we answered all the questions that the council may have on this item, and also make sure that we're all on the same page on the direction of the project. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the staff presentation, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions on the regional airport or the next steps that would be necessary at the Pella Municipal Airport.
Tell me again, amending the 2080 to do what? I'm sorry, I missed.
Well, then the amendment of the 2080 agreement, currently the direction to the South Central Regional Airport Agency in the 2080 agreement is to build the regional airport. The reason the 2080 agreement would need to be amended is to date, the South Central Regional Airport received over $6 million in federal grants for the project. If the project does not proceed, those grants would have to be repaid to the federal government and the amortized value of the grants. We believe that it would be far easier for the entity that received the grants to deal with the outstanding grants rather than have the properties revert to the City of Pella and the City of Oskaloosa, which did not receive the grants. The reason the 2080 is needed in the amendment of the 2080 is the project is being instructed, the board's being instructed to complete the regional airport project. So we'd have to state that the project would be on hold via the amended 2080, and we would work with the Federal Aviation Administration on the retirement of those grants, as well as the property owned by the SCRA.
I think I get that. And then SCRAA would sell the property.
That's not it. That would be in consultation with the Federal Aviation Administration. So that's one of those items that would need to be addressed. It's undetermined right now, the direction of the Federal Aviation Administration. But regardless, the 2080 would need to be amended.
So whatever the SCRAA does after we amend the 2080 has no effect on us proceeding with things we need to do at the Pella Airport.
Yeah, let me talk briefly on the Pella Municipal Airport. We recently received permission from the Federal Aviation Administration to start the master plan process and airport layout plan process at the Pella Municipal Airport. That's going to be required for any significant improvements at the Pella Airport. We need to update the airport layout plan. Pella Airport, the FAA is authorized to proceed with that. So that would be the next step with the process. First step would be is we'd have to hire a consultant to draft the plan or get a long-term master plan and plan and span over the compass of the next 20 years at the Pella Airport. It would have improvements over the next 20 years. We believe that process will take about a year to complete, including somewhere between 60 to 90 days to bring the consultant on board on it. So get a consultant on board in approximately 9 months to complete the plan. So afterwards, then the projects that are identified in the plan would be eligible for FAA funding.
Yeah, just didn't want one to hold up the other.
Yeah, no, we don't believe that's the case.
So that's all we need to decide here is to amend the 2080.
Well, we're just, yes. It's up to the SCRA to actually do the amendment. We just want to make sure everybody understands what's going on.
Yeah. Prior, both the cities would be, it would come back as an action item. What we would have is the amended 2080 for council for further review. But before doing that, we wanted to make sure that we answered all the questions by the city council and everyone understood what the course of the events would be. The amendment to the 2080 would be upcoming likely this fall on it, and we'd also initiate the master plan at the Pella Municipal Airport.
So we can start looking for this consultant now.
Yeah, we got authorization just last week, and we'll have to do it at the staff level in consultation with, well, we're actually going to work with the Pella Airport Committee as far as putting out what's called an RFQ. That's a request for proposals for engineers for the Pella Airport. That selection process is about a 60 to 90 day process that we'll have. So hopefully if everything goes as scheduled, we'll have a contract for a consultant to perform the master plan by this fall for the city council's consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
So if some or most of the $6 million of grant money has been spent, is it Marion asking hook for that?
No, again, that's an item that we'll have to work out with the Federal Aviation Administration. And keep in mind, it's my understanding the grants were on a 20-year basis, and each year that the grant passes, that there's an amortized value of the grant. So some of this property was past the 2 years that was purchased. So what you're talking about is paying back the grants would be the unamortized value. It's my understanding that if that decision is made to retire the grants and the property is sold, that's how the grants would be paid back on it as well. There's this very specific process that we need to make sure that, I don't want to elaborate or speak for the FAA, but those are details that we'll need to work out.
That's all SCARA though, that's not City of Pella.
What as far as the grants, that's the entity that took out the grants as far as that. So that's why we think that the amendment of the 2080 is necessary. It's the same entity that received the grants would be the same entity that would work on their retirement and satisfaction of those grants with the Federal Aviation Administration.
Yeah, and in the meantime, that land is rented and the SCRA is receiving the rental income off the land, the 378 acres that's already owned by the SCRA.
Eventually, that's exactly why we don't want to yet pull out of the SCRAA. We want to amend that, get their finances squarely before dissolving whatever that relationship means. Just because we heard that tonight, I want that response.
Okay, anything else? All right. project for 609 East First Street.
Okay. We wanted to touch base on the demolition of the Second Christian Reformed Church property. This was another project that was scheduled in the current fiscal year. We had roughly $300,000 that was budgeted for the demolition of the second CRC project. What we're going to have, we've solicited engineers on this, and we have a proposal by Veenstra and Kim to handle the demolition of the church facility. It's just shy of $20,000 for that engineering proposal that they would see through the demolition process for us, and they also oversee the asbestos removal from the property as well. With it, it's important to note that included on the church property, there's also a house that's located at 606 Union Street. We intend to proceed with a separate demolition contract for the house property as well with that. So before proceeding with the project, we just wanted to make sure that we addressed any questions council had, or if there's plans for what's going to happen after the demolition. We talked about it. We had the work session, but the first thing out of the chute is we have an engineering agreement with Veenstra and Kim for just shy of $20,000 to handle the demolition of the church property. So, Danny, is there anything else to?
No, I think that covers it. Actually, we'll probably just do the house separately. It can be done locally and inspected for asbestos locally, and we'll just get it and those trees out. And when we say parking lots, the plan, unless we hear different from council or whoever, we'll leave the northerly parking lot and a good share of the westerly parking lot. So we'll just be cutting off that southwest corner of that south lot so that we can use that knob of dirt to essentially fill the hole and level the entire site and seed it with this contract. So, and we'll leave the perimeter sidewalks in place as much as possible and or fix those. I think we can keep it down to enough fixes we can do those in-house.
Oh, we need to get rid of the old buildings.
Yeah. Lots of different critters are taking up.
Yeah.
Residents.
Let's get the process going.
What I was concerned about the parking, I'm glad to hear this to be wrote out.
Okay. All right. Number 5, City Council norms, values, and principles of governance. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We have listed on the purpose of the discussion to discuss forming the values and principles of government statement or guidelines for the City Council. And I'd like to preface this. We've received inquiries from council members on norms and guidelines and principles of government statements for the City of Pella by elected officials on this. I recently attended a training session through the International City Managers Association that covered this very same topic. And the example that they used was Livermore, California. That was the same norms, values, and principles of government statement that we included in the council packet. So from staff standpoint, we are just looking for direction on this item, but if council wanted to go down the path and draft or adopt the values and principles of government statement, we'd be happy to work with the elected officials to do so. So, Mayor, that concludes the staff presentation. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions from council on this item.
Well, I believe, Lynn, you brought this up, so maybe you could tell us what we're talking about.
Official. This is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. And in speaking with other elected officials in other communities, other mayors, House of Representatives, senators, people are really kind of shocked that we don't have principles of guidance within our city council. And we have some rules to follow, but they're very loose-ended. And I asked Mike about setting something like this up, and he gave me a wonderful example from California. But after looking at that, I decided to look at some of the guidances that are already in place in Iowa. And one of those paths led me to a good friend who is the mayor of Urbandale. And he and I had a very lengthy conversation about the need for something like this. And Urbandale has gone so far as to build pillars of character. And every staff meeting, every city council meeting, every department meeting, these principles of character period where before this wasn't necessary, but I think it would behoove us to be looking into this. So my request is that, and in my discussion with Mayor Andoy too, he said it's very important that you work with your HR department too, because your departments and your department heads will also be looking at these governances. So I guess what I'm asking the council this evening for is for permission to work with Mandy and Mike and to look at some of these governances, come up with what we feel is a good guideline for city council and bring it back for consideration. Just asking permission. I'm a rule follower.
So there's pretty.
But I think it's a shame
That we're doing it, or
that
that it's
it's
necessary?
necessary.
Yeah, I did ask Bob, I said, do you find it necessary? And he said, I find it not only necessary, but very helpful. He said, if there is almost to Jonathan's point, if there's a stepping out of line, then the other staff or council members remind that other person gently, let's remember our pillars of character. And it keeps us accountable to you. And I'm okay with that. Because, quite frankly, you put us here. So that's my speech. I know we're all tired and hungry, but I really would like to look into it.
Well, I can concur that you can do that. I appreciate your volunteering to do it because it's a little tricky, to put it right together. But I think it'll be helpful. We all need guidance. I'm not talking. I'll just talk for myself. I need guidance.
So are you talking, so we have a pretty detailed code of conduct in our city code. Talks about how each of us, our responsibilities and all that. So are you talking about codifying something in addition to what we already have? Is that the ultimate goal?
Yes.
So would this be something that it would just be Mandy and you and Mike would make, or would it be, would there be a committee formed around it? What do you see?
I'm thinking that Mandy and Mike and I would look at, much like when you write an ordinance, you extrapolate, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you extrapolate the pieces that you believe would best exemplify what you would want your city council to do. Is that doable, Mandy?
Yeah, this discussion is very timely because I'm a part of an HR director group of cities and counties throughout Iowa. And this topic actually came up last week. So several cities have shared what they've adopted. Clive is a great one. So I have data that we can look at too. It basically is council adopts these different norms or what the expectations are, and it's something that is then rolled down to staff too. So I have materials that we can start with and not have to start from scratch.
Am I going to have to wear a tie?
Boy, it'd be about time.
Well, I think any organization can't really do its job well until it has mission, vision, values, and I think this is just a terminology for that. Does it have to be codified? That seems really fancy, but maybe necessarily it's in a handbook or I don't know.
That's where I would turn
it seems
to
a little.
So far what I've seen, Clive is kind of the best practice, and what they did is they have a document and they adopt it as a resolution and they look at it every year.
Sure.
Do we want to change it? And then they encourage staff to put this up and follow these guidelines.
All right, sounds like have at it.
I'll do it.
All right.
Thank you.
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Hopkins, Carlstone. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Hinsmeyer,